I think it's a fair statement to say that NXT is the lifeblood of the WWE. Sure, of course, it is the main roster that makes all the money, but without NXT, we don't get the superstars of the future. And WWE has already benefited from NXT tremendously, as some of the biggest stars on the main roster today came from NXT. This is all going to be dependent on how their matches have been, what storylines have been booked for them, fan reception, etc. Hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications if you're a wrestling fan. I know you're going to fall in love with this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's jump into it. First, let's start off with Pretty Deadly, one of the most entertaining tag team acts on the main roster today. A tag team act that is doing very well, both in terms of stories, in terms of their matches, in terms of overall fan reception as well. And all of this could have gone sideways super quickly because of the early injury to Elton Prince. It would have been very easy for the WWE to just shove Pretty Deadly to the side and wait for Elton Prince to be healthy and then eventually be reintroduced to the WWE universe. But by then, I feel like the spark of Pretty Deadly may just not have hit as well. But instead of just letting them go by the wayside during Elton's injury, they used that to their advantage with these awesome #EltonStrong vignettes that showed the recovery of Elton Prince. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. These guys are full of charisma. They are incredibly likable. They are incredibly entertaining. Their matches are great. They've put together a pretty decent set of feuds with the likes of the Brawling Brutes, and I can see nothing but tag team gold in their future. That is, if the tag team gold could actually come down to the tag team division for once. As of right now, not only do I think they are one of the best NXT tag team call-ups of all time, they are my favorite tag team in the WWE right now. However, as I am on Pretty Deadly, the WWE just doesn't seem to be very over on tag team wrestling in general, which is what's preventing these guys from really having super meaningful feuds, which would then result into even more TV time, because it seems like Pretty Deadly's TV time is kind of sparse. Well, they'll go like 3 weeks where they're on and then 3 weeks where they disappear. However, if there was a true, strong, healthy tag team division, I feel like these guys could be in the A category. But for now, I am going to be having a B+ for Pretty Deadly. Next up, let's look at poor old Cameron Grimes. Did you forget that Cameron Grimes was called up? Because I did, because he seems to appear every like 10 episodes of SmackDown. And it's a little bit jarring because they started off strong with Cameron Grimes. They gave him a pretty notable feud right off the get-go with Baron Corbin, where he squashed Baron Corbin in 5 seconds. They were telling a pretty interesting story with that. But then things got turned upside down. Baron Corbin went to NXT, and it seems that whoever was writing that story, I don't know, might have been fired, because it seems like all the writers forgot about the existence of Cameron Grimes. Because ever since that story with Baron Corbin was put aside, it looks like Cameron Grimes was put aside as well. And it's too bad, because they could have still done something with him, like some sort of vignette package, kind of like they did with Pretty Deadly, but instead they just let the entire WWE universe forget about his entire existence. And now he's relegated to matches where when he comes out, everybody goes, oh shit, I forgot about Cameron Grimes. So poor old Cameron Grimes is going to be getting a D+. He's just saved from an F grade, because at the very least, at the very beginning of his run in the main roster, he got a pretty big push against Baron Corbin, but aside from that, he's done nothing. Let's look at Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller was destined to be one of the top players on SmackDown, and that has been the case right from day one. This man has had interactions with legends like the likes of John Cena, Edge, and even more. Not only have these just been interactions, he's had some pretty decent matches as well. And similarly to Elton Prince and Pretty Deadly, Grayson Waller was injured right off the get-go. In fact, he was injured going into his run into the main roster. And instead of just putting him aside and waiting for him to debut at a later date, they immediately put him in segments, backstage segments, in his Grayson Waller effect, and allowed the WWE universe to become endeared to this character. And now we have the full package. Not only do we have the character Grayson Waller that can host these great talk shows, have funny backstage segments, but we also have the wrestler Grayson Waller that can put together a pretty decent match as well. And as of the making of this video, he's embroiled in a feud with a fairly notable high-profile WWE superstar on SmackDown in Kevin Owens. And he's also tag teaming with one of the poster childs of WWE in Austin Theory. So everything is looking up right now for Grayson Waller, it seems. It's very evident that the WWE has a lot of trust and sees high stock in Grayson Waller, and that's been very apparent with the way that they've been booking him. The crowd seems to like the guy, so I'm going to be giving Grayson Waller an A-. This video is brought to you by patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get even more wrestling content than you're already getting here on this channel. You're going to get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early. You're going to get the Monday Night Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the wrestling Q&As that we're doing over there, and more. So go check it out. Patreon.com/SantiZap. There might be something that you like there. It'll be the top link in the description. All right, back to the video. Now let's look at the human Funko Pop, JD McDonough, aka the biggest Judgment Day fanboy of all time. So things were looking a little bit uncertain for JD McDonough when he first got called up. If you remember this, his call up was around the same time that Vince McMahon kind of retook over things, and he is just not a Vince McMahon looking guy. He was initially put in with a feud with Dolph Ziggler that really didn't go anywhere, and then he disappeared. And then he would later reappear in segments backstage with Finn Balor, which were teasing something bigger. However, ultimately Vince McMahon came and took over again, and JD McDonough was gone, seemingly from existence. And then Vince McMahon got ousted again, and then all of a sudden JD McDonough is right back where he was supposed to be, in these segments with Finn Balor and ultimately major segments with all of Judgment Day. And out of everyone on this list, I would say that JD McDonough has had the most cohesively written story arc out of everyone. He has had the story of the guy that's trying to get into Judgment Day. He's trying to get into the good books with the likes of Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Whether you like the hijinks of him accidentally costing matches for Judgment Day and then later on redeeming himself and helping them win, I don't know, that's really up to you. But what it means is that he's a main event player in Triple H's eyes right now, at the very least as a subsegment of Judgment Day. He himself as an individual hasn't really had any major feuds. His entire existence in the main roster has really just been a symbiotic relationship with the Judgment Day. But it doesn't change the fact that as of the making of this video, he's about to be in a major main event at Survivor Series War Games. And the Judgment Day is going to go down as one of the strongest factions in WWE history, and JD McDonough is going to be a major player in that. So clearly WWE sees a lot in this guy. He's won over the fans as well with his in-ring work, because this man sells his ass off. So we appreciate JD McDonough's work, and we know how good he can actually be. I'm not the biggest fan of JD McDonough, but I have to acknowledge the fact that they've been treating this guy super highly, and he's got to be given an A- here. Next up, let's look at Zoe Stark. Zoe Stark was immediately put into a very major high-profile feud in a high major position alongside Trish Stratus and feuding with Becky Lynch. This, of course, led to her getting a lot of screen time, and it caused WWE fans to get to know who Zoe Stark is. And that is always the biggest hurdle for NXT superstars when they come to the main roster, getting people to know who the hell they are. And because she was embroiled in this feud, fans quickly knew what she was all about and what kind of wrestler she was. And the WWE has demonstrated that they really like Zoe Stark, not only putting her in those major moments with Trish Stratus, but also putting her in awesome matches with Becky Lynch. That Falls Count Anywhere match was absolutely fantastic. She's already had a world title match at Crown Jewel, and she's set to have another one at the upcoming Survivor Series War Games. Again, this is recorded before that. If she ends up winning, I would probably have to increase this grade even more. The only thing about Zoe Stark, the thing that she needs to do is she needs to cement herself as an everlasting player in the main event picture, because there's people that come and go, that go from the mid card to the main event and then immediately right back. She's got to impress the hell out of us to stay here and stay up here forever. But nonetheless, she has been one of the more impressive NXT women's call-ups in a very long time. She's been treated very, very well by WWE. I have to also give her an A-. I gotta be honest with you, I love Indy Hartwell. I don't know why she got called up when she did. She was NXT Women's Champion and she was injured. It was just like a weird combination of things. Why are you bringing up the NXT Women's Champion and why are you bringing up somebody that's injured? And that injury caused her to relinquish that NXT title that, of course, she keeps mentioning that she never lost. But it's a baffling decision to bring up somebody that wasn't able to compete for a really long time and somebody that isn't on the same charisma level as a Grayson Waller, where you can give her like her own talk show. So she was basically MIA for a very long time after her call up. And once she was eventually able to compete, they've really done nothing with her. She's kind of just been hanging around with Candice LeRae, not really contributing too much to main roster television. And anytime she's got a main roster match, she's just fodder. She's been losing. She has not been treated to the level of somebody like a Zoe Stark. And it's a shame because she was the NXT Women's Champion, not Zoe Stark. So poor Indy Hartwell has a long way to go to recover her image and to really win over the WWE Universe. I'm going to be giving her a D. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire started off hot in the WWE main roster when being called up from NXT, but then they've seemed to have randomly disappeared. However, the very minimum, they've been doing these vignettes teasing their return and teasing the fact that they've been cursing the NXT titles. So that's cool. I like the fact that they've been staying in the conversation, even though they're not physically on television having matches. They were also the hosts of NXT Halloween Havoc, which was great. But I was very high on them, and then they just sort of disappeared, and I really don't understand why, considering the damn women's tag team division needs tag teams. They desperately need them, and they have a great one right here, and they just had them disappear. I don't know what the story behind this is. I don't know if one of them is injured. I hope that's not the case. I don't know. We just don't know why they've been gone, but they started off so hot, but we'll see. I can't really give them too strong of a grade because they've been gone for so long, but at the very least, they impressed me when they first showed up, kind of like Cameron Grimes did. And they've been staying in the loop by appearing in segments and whatnot. So I'm going to give them a conservative C-. Did you forget that Apollo Crews was an NXT guy that got called up to the main roster, that got sent back down to NXT, that got called up to the main roster? I did, because I haven't seen him forever. F. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter are another one of these tag teams that are just not being utilized as much as they should. But when they are on screen, they are a tremendous amount of fun. And they need to be one of the spearheads of the women's tag team divisions. And instead, the WWE seems to be focused on giving that to Natty and Tegan Knox. Look, their screen presence brings just a lot of joy and a lot of fun. Their moveset is great. And they, like I said, they're a genuine tag team that they should be utilizing, but they're not. They are having pretty constant matches on main event, and sometimes they get used on Monday Night Raw, but it's not really to the effect that they should be getting used as. But they have been getting used more than Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, so I'm going to give them a slightly higher grade. I'm going to be giving them a C+. Indus Sher is another one of these teams that weirdly got a hot start at the beginning and then disappeared. I don't know why they've been doing this with NXT call-ups so recently. Again, these guys, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, we had Cameron Grimes, they just show up and then gone, disappear. Look, I don't know. They started off hot. I really like their look and their vibe. I think they were a little bit rough in the ring. Maybe that's why they got pulled off television, and maybe they've been training. I don't know. Either way, I like the mouthpiece that is Jinder Mahal. I like how big and scary and menacing these guys are, just like the big hairy beard and their beautiful suits. I think they got a great look about them. But we haven't seen them in forever. But I do think that once they come back to the main roster, that they are going to be big players. But for now, because of their disappearance, I'm going to be giving them a C- as well. Have you seen this man? This is Odyssey Jones. He's been missing for the better part of a year. His friends and family are concerned. If you know anything about Odyssey Jones's whereabouts, please call your local police department. F. Dragon Lee was called up later on in the year. He wasn't part of the main NXT call-ups that were part of the WWE draft. In fact, I don't think he was supposed to get called up at all. He just happened to have a match with Dominic Mysterio on Monday Night Raw and impressed the hell out of everyone, so much so that they just said, let's keep him on the main roster. And understandably so. This guy's been absolutely cooking up some fantastic matches. He recently had a great match with Axiom and a set of great matches with Cedric Alexander. The only thing right now is that they don't really have any storylines for him. He's just the guy that puts on really good matches, and that's okay. But at some point or another, they're gonna have to give this guy a set of substance, something for us to care about more than just how good he is in the ring. But clearly they they see a lot of great things in Dragon Lee. He's likely to take up the mantle for Rey Mysterio when he retires. This guy's going to be huge in the WWE. B+ for now. And last but not least, let's look at the Creed brothers alongside Ivy Nile. It's kind of unfair to even put them in here because they are such a fresh call-up. They're only a couple of weeks old on the main roster, but Brutus and Julius Clay have already picked up some major wins against very key notable tag teams in the Raw tag team division, and Ivy Nile was highlighted very heavily in the Women's Battle Royal to determine the #1 contender. In fact, she got the most eliminations. And that to me tells me that these guys, as well as Ivy Nile, are seen in a very positive light and are likely going to be doing big things in the near future. Very curious as to whether they're actually going to keep them all together, if they're going to really have Ivy Nile have an independent singles career. That really remains to be seen as of the making of this video. But again, a little bit premature to give them a rating. So I'm just going to plunk them right in the middle and just give them a C+. But I'm sure they're probably going to be in the A category by the end of next year. All right, that's it. That's all the NXT call-ups. Let me know how you would grade them. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.